Good morning. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share our findings while looking at the data of college and university completion across the nation. I am pleased to introduce you to our team. First, I'm Gabrielle Centurion, the video content specialist. Then we have Michelle Wong, the professionalism expert, Dariana, the data visualist, and Nick, the data analyst. By looking at trends and creating visuals comparing universities and colleges across the nation, my group and I are very proud to say that we have. For our agenda, we will be going over the purpose of our analysis, then we will explain our statistical analysis and all the data we use, then go over our data My team and I performed various tests on data over 1,500 universities and colleges across the U.S. to identify factors that have an impact on a university's undergraduate graduation rate. In addition, we analyzed how the graduation rate compares across the types of institutions and urbanizations. Moving on to our statistical analysis, the factors that weren't significant that we found out from a regression model was percent of students that received financial aid, number of students admitted, and the 5 independent variables: percent admitted, public tuition, percent of women, and master's degree offered in our final regression model equation are significant predictors of the 4-year graduation rate. Since each of our independent variables had a p-value of less than 0.10, we can say that each independent variable significantly impacts the 4. Here is our estimated sample regression equation, and I would like to point out that our R squared was 59.89%, which means we are 59.89% of the way towards perfectly predicting 4-year graduation rate using our model. And as you can see, it's a pretty lengthy regression equation, so if you want to just take a look at that right now. Moving on, we will be looking at our regression output. From the regression output, our predictions of 4-year graduation rate are off by an average of 13.71 percentage points. Because the significance F of p-value 8.843 from the regression was lower than our significance level of 0.10, we can reject the null hypothesis and say that at least one of the independent variables significantly impacts the 4-year graduation rate. Now looking at the residual plots for common violations, you can notice here that there is no heteroscedasty or nonlinear patterns that appear visible in the plots of the residual. The check for endogeneity revealed that there are not missing variables, as the correlation between the residuals and each of the independent variables was extremely low. The check for multicollinearity revealed that there is a potential for multicollinearity between the independent variables for the tuition and public, as the absolute value of the correlation is greater than 0.8, which is our cutoff number. Since the model is already a good predictor, no fixed. Now for our data exploration. For the first dashboard, a map was created to look at all the states except for Alaska and Hawaii and their average graduating rates. The map includes different shades of red, where the darker the shade is, the higher that state's graduating rate is. In addition, by hovering over each state, you are able to see the state's average graduating rate and the state's average graduation rate depending on the institution type. Lastly, the map includes various dots that depict different zip codes. By hovering over each zip code, you are able to see which school pertains to a specific zip code and school ID. In the second dashboard, there are 2 figures that allow us to take a closer look at the different urbanization types for each state. Additionally, the different colors in the dashboard depict a different type of urbanization. In the first figure, titled Top 5 States with the Highest Average Graduating Rate, we are able to analyze 3 specific factors. In the figure, we are able to see that the 5 states that have the highest average graduating rate, the urbanizations, and what their graduating rate is. In the second figure, titled All States, we can see all of the states, including the average graduating rate based on each type of institution. And you could see that there's many different ways to look at the data here, and the visual is very organized. With the right, you have that keyboard, and you could flip from each visual at the top of the page here. And is that public universities have higher 4-year graduation rates on average than private universities. This came as a surprise to us, as we figured that the smaller nature of private institutions would lead to greater student success. Another trend that we found potentially important and surprising was that as institution increased, so did graduation rate. We previously expected more affordable universities to have a higher graduation rate, as there would be fewer financial concerns. 2 variables that we originally assumed to be significant predictors of the 4-year graduation rate, but in running the regression proved not significant, were the percent of students who were white and the percent of students who received financial aid. Now moving on to our recommendation. Our team developed Two potential recommendations from both our visualizations and regression model from our Tableau visualizations. It is recommended that public institutions, including its factors, should all be reformed since their average graduation rate in almost all states is significantly lower than the average graduation rate in private institutions. If factors within the public institutions, such as their funding programs, are reformed, the average graduation rate may begin to rise. As for our second recommendation, based on our regression model, our second recommendation is tuition should be dispersed towards the best possible areas. We discovered that institutions with higher tuition had higher graduation rates. More institutions will have a higher graduation rate if tuition is distributed more evenly, if we perform more testing or use of our different data and analysts may improve. The end. Thank you.